There's one road we all travel on, and that is the road to character. Today I'm adding to my Skim a Bestseller playlist by taking a look at David Brooks' best-selling book, which spent 165 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. Now, I did not expect to like this book. I thought it was going to be boring. I was wrong. It was a very easy read. It held my attention. He's a very talented writer with the kind of writing that pulls you in, makes you forget you're even reading. Very vivid descriptions. It was a richly insightful book. You really can't read this book without being challenged to self-reflect and to look at your own road to character and where it has led you so far. Brooks explains how our society has shifted from a culture of humility to a culture that encourages people to see themselves as the center of the universe. And he does that by pointing out how our thinking, our actions, and our attitudes have changed from the 1940s until today. He even mentioned the tone of the Girl Scout handbook and how it had changed from an ethic of self-sacrifice to telling girls to pay more attention to themselves. In the 1940s, people felt an impulse to check themselves for pride or any kind of self-glorification. That was just part of the culture. It's the way people were back then. But today we are fed messages that actually encourage self-trust, finding your own truth, following your own voice, tooting your own horn, seeking recognition, and then sharing every thought, feeling, and achievement with the world. The book points out many societal problems throughout the book. Things like the decline of our sense of community, having more acquaintances but fewer real friends, families living geographically far from one another, our growing materialistic desires, lack of self-restraint, living for our own happiness, judging others by their abilities, not their worth, our fast but very shallow way of communicating, and our inability to make commitments, among other things. That's a lot of changes from the 1940s. Sounds like we're circling the drain. A quote from the book: "We live in a society that encourages us to think about how to have a great career, but leaves many of us inarticulate about how to cultivate the inner life. The competition to succeed and win admiration is so fierce that it becomes all-consuming. We live in a culture that teaches us to promote and advertise ourselves and to master the skills required for success, but that gives little encouragement to humility, sympathy, and honest self-confrontation, which are necessary for building character." So, in today's world, we find ourselves with a clear strategy for achieving career success and no strategy for developing a profound character. It's not something that, we're contemplating or thinking about, as we graduate high school. We have career on our mind, but we don't say to ourselves, well, what can I do to develop my character? He talks about the difference between resume virtues and eulogy virtues, and I'll read what he has to say about that in the introduction. The resume virtues are the ones you list on your resume, the skills that you bring to the job market and that contribute to external success. The eulogy virtues are deeper. They are the virtues that get talked about at your funeral, the ones that exist at the core of your being. Whether you are kind, brave, honest, or faithful, what kind of relationships you formed. Our education system is certainly oriented around the resume virtues more than the eulogy ones. Public conversation is too. In other words, we talk more about our, career and think more about what we're going to do to build our career than we even think about, what it takes to build character. And as I found myself thinking about my own way of thinking as I was reading this book, just thinking back to conversations that I had, things that I said, conversations I've heard other people say. It just, there's no way you can read this book without it making you think about your own road to character. You know, I found myself regretting some things that I posted on Facebook because they might have come across as prideful or self-glorifying. I thought about times when I might have judged people as more important or more valuable because of their intelligence or their talents, their achievements. You know, I ask myself, when have I been prideful, lacking humility? When have I been materialistic, putting things before people? You know, buying stuff I didn't need, longing for things I didn't need. When have I felt the desire to toot my own horn? When have I lacked empathy, sympathy? When have I failed to be kind, trustworthy, loyal, faithful? And what are my eulogy virtues? What are people going to say about me at my funeral? You know, these are the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves if we truly care about building character and becoming the best version of ourselves. Now, this is not in the book. This is my opinion. I think the best place to find guidance for building character is the Bible, specifically the book of Proverbs. So I went through the book of Proverbs in the Message Bible, and I pulled some things that I felt was good advice for building character. And this is my own nutshell version of what it said. Live honestly, develop wisdom and good sense, keep company with good men and women, you know, watch who you hang out with. Listen for God's voice in everything you do and everywhere you go. Use clear thinking and common sense. Never walk away from someone who deserves help. Seek good advice. Guard your heart. I think there's a verse in the Bible, guard your heart for it determines the course of your life. That one's very important. Avoid careless banter, lies, and gossip. Remember, God is watching every move you make, and that includes everything you say. Don't be a prideful, arrogant troublemaker. Avoid the trappings of wealth. Choose your words carefully. Welcome correction. Be kind. Bless others. Be a blessing. Love your family. Love your animals. Don't be a liar. Don't flaunt your achievements and your knowledge. Don't be lazy. Be reliable. Put God in charge of your work. Respect people in the workplace. Be a good listener. And know when to keep your mouth shut and say nothing. And learn to forgive. And there are many more tidbits of advice in the book of Proverbs. It's one of my favorite books. It's just so simple. Anyone can understand the book of Proverbs. It's just such a simple book, filled with simple advice that can make a big difference in your life, the way you relate to other people. So if you want to work on your character, that's a great place to start, the book of Proverbs. And I think even more important, an even better foundation is actually spending time in God's presence. Because when you get close to God, you start to hear that inner voice, the Holy Spirit. You start to hear, you know, when you're about to make a decision, you will hear that inner voice telling you which way to go. It's the voice of God. And that is actually the most important thing that you can do to develop your character, in my opinion. So in closing, most of this book is a look into the lives of some of the world's greatest thinkers and inspiring leaders and how they build a strong inner character. I think you'll very much enjoy these powerful stories, vivid narrations of the lives of these people and their moral choices, how their character was developed, other people that influenced their lives and their decisions. These are people who rose above their weaknesses, rose above their limitations, and developed a very strong moral depth. And they ended up leaving a very positive mark on the people around them. They are the world changers. The amount of work and research that went into this book, to me, was mind-boggling. This The author of this book clearly deserved his spot on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 years. I'm sure it took him at least that long to write this book. And my favorite story was of David and Ida Eisenhower and their family. It was mostly about their son, Dwight. And at the end of that chapter, Brooks says this. This is one of the really greatest things said in this book. It's pretty much sums up this whole thing of developing your character and the road to character. He says, conquering your own soul was a significant concept in the moral ecology in which Eisenhower grew up. It was based on the idea that deep inside we are dual in our nature. We are fallen, but also splendidly endowed. We have a side to our nature that is sinful, selfish, deceiving, and self-deceiving, but we have another side to our nature that is in God's image, a side that seeks transcendence and virtue. The essential drama of life is the drama to construct character, which is an engraved set of disciplined habits, a settled disposition to do good. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this look into David Brooks' best-selling book. Not only was it a good read, but it also is the kind of book that can change your life if you allow it to inspire you toward building your own character, and being a positive influence on others. Virtues like humility, empathy, and moral courage, they're very powerful virtues. They're virtues that will change you. They'll end up changing your life, and they're very likely going to cause you to be someone who, ends up changing the world through your own desire to do good in the world. So it's a wonderful book. If you ever get a chance, be sure to read it. Thanks for listening. I will see you next week. Don't know what my topic is. Lately, I haven't had a preconceived knowing of what my upcoming topic is, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. And I hope you'll check back for next week's topic. Have a great rest of your week, and take care. I love y'all.